You can't put a price on truth, but you can put a price on where you get it. Save 40% on new Daily Wire Plus gift memberships for Father's Day with code DAD40 at dailywire.com/gift. Elon Musk just called President Trump's signature legislative achievement, quote, a disgusting abomination. Is he right? Is Trump right? Is the billionaire bromance over? I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. There's a new study out, timely for this Pride Month, that shows that most LGBT LMNOP people consult astrology. Why is that? Why does LGBT, why do they look at their horoscopes? There's actually a very deep reason. We'll get to that in one moment. First, I want to tell you about Mayflower Cigars. I want you to go check out Mayflower Cigars. Father's Day is fast approaching, my friends. I think we're actually technically sold out of the Mayflower Dream, the new Maduro, but there's lots of other stuff. Wonderful, perfect gifts, from fresh packs, accessories, boxes, to gift bundles for dads who appreciate craftsmanship, character, and a well-earned pause. We might even still have some of the beautiful, bespoke, unbelievable value Mayflower smoking jackets available with Shepherd's Menwear. So go check it out right now. You must be 21 years old or older to purchase. Void where prohibited. Conditions and exclusions apply. Thank you, Mayflower Cigars, for supporting today's episode. Elon is turning on the spending bill. This is what Trump is calling the big, beautiful bill. This is the legislative achievement that he can get through in this first year. And Elon says, I'm sorry, I can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those of you who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. Whoa! Those are tough words. Elon Musk was the buddy-in-chief. He was one of the most prominent figures at the White House. He's recently left the White House after his 130-day period when he could be a temporary government employee while still owning his companies. And then he comes out. He's out of the White House for a few days and he says the chief legislative achievement of the White House is a disgusting abomination. What is in the bill? Is Elon right? Well, first thing in the bill, largest tax cut in U.S. history, because what the bill primarily does is extend the 2017 tax cuts that Trump had during the first term. This is why when I sat down with Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, I said, what's your thought on the big, beautiful bill? He said, well, it's pass or fail for us. It's not, we're going to get some of it through, or maybe we'll try to get this part through, or, he said, look, it's all there. This is the bill that we can get through, and it's either pass, fail. If we pass, then we get to keep the tax cuts. We get to fund our government. If we fail, we're going to be responsible for the biggest tax hike ever. So we have to get the bill through. And that's what they were after. The libs are going to call this a tax cut for the rich or something. That's not what it is. Americans earning between $30,000 and $80,000 a year. So $80,000, I think, is the median household income in the United States. People earning from $30,000 up to the median household income will pay 15% less in taxes. That is a massive tax cut. Thanks to Trump, thanks to the big, beautiful bill. But it obviously will exacerbate deficits if all you got was the tax cut. So there is also deficit reduction. And to the White House's credit, it's the largest deficit reduction in about 30 years. There's all sorts of savings, and the devil's in the details on this accounting, but $1.6 trillion in mandatory savings. That's pretty good because there's a lot of extra spending in there that the White House had to put in there because it's what President Trump ran on and it's what the people voted for. That's funding for the border wall. That's funding for ICE agents. That's funding for the military. That's funding for child tax credit, a kind of early version of a White House family policy. So it's all pretty good. Where do the cuts come from? The cuts come largely from waste and fraud. So the other thing you're going to hear about this bill from the libs is that it takes away health care from Americans and from children and all the rest. Not so. It is taking some money out of Medicaid, which is a government healthcare program that is designed for lower income American citizens. But it's not taking healthcare funding away from the people who deserve it and who are entitled to it under the Medicaid plan. It's taking Medicaid funding away from the 1.4 million illegals who are on Medicaid, to use just one example. It's taking Medicaid funding away from people who are abusing the system, who are not legally entitled to it, people who refuse to work, people who don't meet even basic requirements to avail themselves of healthcare and a welfare. So it cuts waste and fraud in Medicaid. It cuts some ridiculous, fraudulent money that was going to environmentalism and all sorts of other liberal pet projects. But all in all, as someone who's paid attention to politics closely for a long time, I think the big, beautiful bill is pretty good. I think it's totally necessary for the White House to get this through, given the razor-thin majority in the House and better, but still not massive majority in the U.S. Senate. I think it's totally necessary. I agree with the Treasury Secretary. It is pass-fail. But also, I think it's a pretty good bill. All in all, it doesn't spend nearly as much as we might fear that it would spend. But it's not the kind of bill that a libertarian is going to love. It's not the kind of bill that someone who had the expectation that this government was going to get rid of the budget deficit, that this administration was going to start paying down the national debt. That's going to be disappointing for that kind of person. I'm just a little bit surprised that Elon is surprised. Elon is very intelligent. Did Elon really think they were going to get a better bill? I don't know why anyone would have that expectation. Not because Trump isn't good on his word, not because Trump isn't serious about cutting his pay. It's just, this is how our political order operates. We have been running massive annual budget deficits for 25 years. Republican, Democrat. She might say, well, that's the problem. We need to turn that around. Yeah, I know. I get it. I know. But we need to get a little deeper, okay? Rather than just pointing fingers and saying, you stupid members of Congress. It's easy to say that. I've said it many times. We need to ask ourselves, what is wrong with our political order that we keep running these massive deficits? The politicians don't just do it to play a trick on us. They do it because they believe that that's what they have to do to get elected. Because, as H.L. Mencken says, democracy is the theory that the common man knows what he wants and deserves to get it good and hard. I think there is a deeper issue, but deeper than Democrat, deeper than Republican, that explains why we run consistently massive budget deficits. All in all, I think the bill's pretty good. Now, the one little political operative thing that might be going on here with the Elon tweet that I haven't seen anyone else point out, Elon might be tweeting this now as the kind of bad cop to Trump's good cop. And so it gets through the House. Notice Elon didn't tweet this before the bill got through the House because the Republicans had like one vote they could play with in the House. Okay, it was so tight. It was unclear if it was going to get through. Now that we're in the Senate, there's a little more wiggle room. And because the bill is being passed through reconciliation, the Senate now can maybe make this bill a little better. Mike Lee, one of the great U.S. senators, said, in response to Elon's tweet, said, we got to make this bill better. So the other thing that might be going on here, it might not be just that Elon's having a temper tantrum and the bromance is over. What might be going on is that Elon's new job for the White House is to play the bad cop. So you got the good cop coming out of the actual White House and out of the Republicans in the House, and then you've got Elon playing the bad cop. I have to believe there's a little bit of that going on because of the timing, because it's after the House passed the bill, but also because Elon's a smart guy. And anybody who is surprised by this bill, who thought that this big, beautiful bill could possibly be any better on spending, given our present political circumstances, just is not paying attention to the political circumstances. But now those senators who are afraid of the Elon bucks in their primaries, maybe they'll try to tweak the bill, make it marginally better. We got to talk about a lot of these things. We got to talk about the great news coming out of Massachusetts because the Trump admin is ramping up its efficiency and productivity on deportations. We'll get to that in a moment. First, I'm going to tell you about Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles. Pure Talk, my wireless company, a veteran-led company, believes every man and woman who has faithfully served his country deserves to proudly fly an American flag. A flag that was made in America. That is why Pure Talk is on a mission to give an allegiance flag, the highest quality American flag there is, period, to 1,000 U.S. veterans in time for the patriotic holidays. Just switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk this month, and a portion of every sale will go to provide these high-quality flags to deserving veterans. With plans from just $25 a month for unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data, you can enjoy America's most dependable 5G network while cutting your cell phone bill in half. The average family saves over $1,000 a year. Could you use an extra $1,000 per year? I think we all could. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles right now. People stop me sometimes. They say, Michael, I want the skimmy. Is Pure Talk really good? Is it good? And I say, you're not listening to me. I didn't say it's good cell phone service. I didn't say, oh, yeah, it's great cell phone service. I said, it is the most reliable 5G network. You got to go get it right now. You're going to cut your bills in half, and you can switch in as little as 10 minutes. puretalk.com/Knowles, KNWLES, to support veterans and to switch to America's wireless company, Pure Talk. One of the criticisms of the Trump administration thus far is that they haven't deported enough people. And I think it's fair. My view on it is kind of let him cook a little bit, because, again, you have to ask yourself, rather than just saying Democrats bad or Republicans lazy or whatever, you have to ask yourself, why is it that we have gotten to a point in America where we just welcome millions and millions of illegal aliens into the country every year? How is it that we got to the place where, by conservative estimates, we have 11 to 16 million living in the country? That doesn't count the anchor babies who are technically American citizens. How is it that we've gotten to this place? Yeah, Democrats are nefarious and opportunistic. Yeah, Republicans are lazy. Maybe it's because we haven't had an above replacement birth rate since 1971, and we need mass migration to prop our economy up. Maybe that's a deeper reason why we have this mass migration. Maybe it's because we no longer have a sense of national identity, because the globalists have turned us into a kind of incoherent empire, and the American right has been afraid of the N-word. Not that one, not nuclear, nation. Maybe there are deeper reasons: economic, social, cultural, and political. Regardless, if Trump wants to make good on deportations, they got to seriously ramp it up. We are currently on pace to deport 200 to 400,000 illegal aliens per year. And those are actually pretty rosy numbers. So you do the math, 4 years, that's between, 800,000 and 1.6 million that we deport. As I just said, it's 11 million to 16 million illegal aliens. It's a conservative number. So you talk about almost a tenth of that total number, a ninth, an eighth. That's not great. Or maybe significantly less. Trump has arrested, or ICE rather, has arrested 1,500 in a single raid in Massachusetts. 1,500, that's a big number, because a lot of these raids we're seeing, it's 3 people, it's 10 people, it's 20 people. So 1,500, that's a big, big number. The question for the White House right now is this going to be a signal of a massive ramp up in deportations, or is this kind of a one-off raid? And the political calculation that they're going to have to weigh in is whether or not the White House believes that mass deportations really are a mainstream majority political issue. That's what we all said after the election. We said Trump ran on mass deportations. Polish up the railway lines, because we are going to keep the train a-flowing all the way down past the Rio Grande. That's what he ran on. And Trump not only won the election, but he won the popular vote. So the analysts came out and they said, mass deportations are a mainstream majority political issue. But as of yet, we haven't gotten the mass deportations. And I get why, because there are going to be some people who thought they wanted the mass deportations, and then when they see Abuela getting hauled off by the ICE agents, they're going to change their mind and say it's cruel and turn on Trump. And Trump's going to lose his Hispanic support. There's some sign that Trump has dipped in popularity with Hispanics, so it's unclear exactly why. So it's a live question. I'm not telling you I got all the answers. I don't work at the White House, so I'm not going to be responsible for this. But they do have to make a decision. Are they going to make good on the mass deportations? Okay, if they are, just be aware at the current rate, you're not going to get anywhere close to it. And maybe that's just the calculation. Or if you do want to make good on the mass deportations, we need these 1,500 raids like every day. we need them constantly. And maybe that's what we'll get. We're at an inflection point. We don't know exactly where we're going from here. Now, related to the putting aside the deportation issue for a second, which is very, very difficult to do. And again, I think we got to give the Trump administration a lot of grace here because we haven't seen these mass deportations ever. And we've seen mass migration for the past many decades and mass illegal migration for the past at least couple of decades. So there are structural impediments to Trump actually making good on this. But we are seeing some really good stuff in terms of new migrants coming over. That has dropped basically to zero. Under Biden, you had about 3 million coming over per year, and Biden's saying, there's nothing I can do to stop it. We need the Republicans in the House and the Senate. We need Trump to get on the line and pass a bill. If I don't have a new bill, there's no way I can stop the mass migration. And then what? Trump comes in. He doesn't get a new bill. He just enforces the law, which is why at the time, I and others said that Biden was totally full of it. There was no reason to pass a new migration law. It was going to make the migration problem worse. And if Biden refused to enforce laws that were already on the books, there's no reason to believe he'd enforce a new law that was put on the books. Well, Trump totally proved that because the illegal crossings have dropped basically to zero. And the Washington Post is scratching its head. Washington Post is asking about, where is it? I have the article right here somewhere. Yeah. This is great. Washington Post. The mysterious drop in fentanyl seizures on the U.S.-Mexico border. So mysterious. Why? We were seizing a lot of fentanyl that was coming originally from China, making its way through Mexico, and coming into America to murder 75,000 American citizens per year. It was happening, and now that's not really happening as much. What changed? I'll just read you the first paragraph or two. Mexico City, after years of confiscating rising amounts of fentanyl, the opioid that has fueled the most lethal drug epidemic in American history, U.S. officials are confronting a new and puzzling reality at the Mexican border. Fentanyl seizures are plummeting. It's weird, just about since something changed in Washington. The phenomenon has received little notice in Washington, where the Trump administration has made fentanyl trafficking cartels a national security priority. Narcotics of all kinds are pouring across our border, said a White House statement in March, announcing stiff tariffs on Mexico and Canada. New data suggests a more complex story. The U.S. government's average monthly seizures of fentanyl at the Mexican border have dropped by more than half, from 1,700 pounds in 2024 to 746 pounds this year, according to CBP. So weird. What on earth could have changed? Might it have something to do with Trump stopping the illegal crossings? By the way, even with Trump stopping the illegal crossings, there's still a lot of fentanyl getting through. Because fentanyl is a top priority for the cartels who control the border. So even with that, you're still getting a lot of fentanyl. But it's a real head scratcher, isn't it? When you enforce the law and shut down the border, fewer bad things get across the border. This is a version of that story made famous by the journalist Fox Butterworth, I think was his name. Fox Butterfield, something like that. Where he said, crime keeps dropping despite prisons filling. As if those two were contradictory rather than went hand in hand. Yeah. Turns out when you elect a guy who runs on stopping from bringing drugs into our country, and then he actually does that, turns out you get fewer drugs in the country. Washington Post, man, what colleges do they graduate from? What does it take to be a writer at the Washington Post? To be obtuse. I think that's all you top of the resume. I am extremely obtuse. Oh, you're hired. Here's your desk. Here's your newspaper fedora. Here, let's get on some stories where you express your befuddlement. Speaking of poison, the creator of the abortion pill is dead. He didn't die flipping his Corvette. The guy was 98 years old. His name was Etienne Emile Beaulieu. And he helped develop the oral drug RU486, which is more commonly known as mifepristone. And his widow has issued this statement. His research was guided by his commitment to progress through science, his dedication to women's freedom, and his desire to enable everyone to live better and longer lives. I shouldn't laugh. It's so dark, I shouldn't laugh. His research, his creation of the abortion pill, was motivated by his desire to enable everyone to live better and longer lives. This man bears greater responsibility for shortening the average lifespan on Earth than anything since the bubonic plague, the Black Death, probably including the Black Death, over enough of a time span. And his widow says, oh, he just wanted to make people live longer. Doesn't that just sum it all up? When you cooperate with evil and when you fall into sin, even the very things that you think you're trying to do are totally undermined. You get the opposite. A true Faustian bargain. There's a phrase, de mortuis nil nisi bonum. Nothing but good. Say nothing but good of the dead. I generally try to adhere to that. In this case, though, this is such a live political issue. I think we need to be a little more blunt. This man, Etienne-Émile Baudu, is one of the most evil men ever to walk the earth. Much more evil than Hitler. Much more, and not even close. Not even close. Much more evil than Stalin. There is no comparison. This man, because of his dogged pursuit of this drug that is intended to kill babies in the womb, this man is responsible for the murder of an estimated, and we don't have the exact number, but an estimated, conservative estimate, 5 to 7 million babies in the United States alone. When you add in the rest of the world, most conservative estimate possible, this man is responsible for at least tens of millions of deaths, maybe already over 100 million, and they're just getting started. The abortion pill is still rising in the total percentage of abortions that it's responsible for. The official number, I think, is 60 or 63%, but I've spoken to people who are a little more on the ground with how the abortion industry works. I'm told it's north of 70% at this point. Okay. No signs of slowing down. This man, who is going to get eulogies in the New York Times and the Washington Post, I'm sure, one of the most evil men ever to live. To put in perspective the amount of pure, needless human suffering this person has caused, nuclear bombs have killed 214,000 people ever. This man has so far killed at least tens of millions. At least. No end in sight. At least with Hitler, you say. Hitler killed however many millions of people, 8 million people total or so. I don't know. It depends on how much of the war you blame on Hitler, but 10 million people. I don't know, whatever. For Stalin, you say he killed 20 million people, 40 million people, 50 million people. I don't care. However many millions of people. Now they're dead. Now they're not responsible for more deaths. With this guy, Baudu, he's going to be responsible for deaths into the future until the end of time. And not just any kind of death. You think of someone like Oppenheimer, who created the atomic bomb. You say, well, he was just trying to work on science and progress. And yeah, okay, I get it. But first of all, bombs can be used in a justified way because there is such a thing as just war. There is no such thing as just murdering a baby. It's just murdering a baby, which is always unjust. With Oppenheimer, you could say, well, a nation has a right to defend itself against threats, and the enemies of the United States were working on the bomb, and so it was, there are all sorts of justifications for creating the nuclear bomb. And even still, people view him with a great deal of moral doubt. He's responsible for a little over 200,000 deaths ever. There is no moral justification for creating this drug and promoting this drug. This is a reminder. We should pray for the guy's soul. Some people don't believe in praying for the dead, but it's a very traditional Christian practice. So we should pray for his soul. We should certainly pray for the souls of his many millions of victims. And we should, as a political matter and a personal matter, remember for ourselves the enormity of the amount of evil that a single person could do. Now I want to tell you, on that chipper note, I want to tell you about Shopify. I have started multiple businesses. It's odd because I don't really think of myself as a businessman, but I've started multiple businesses. And I'll tell you one thing, Had I known about Shopify, had Shopify been around from the very beginning of my entrepreneurial career, that would have made things a whole lot easier. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. We even use it for our own DailyWire shop to make sure things are running smoothly and efficiently so you all can get the goods. Now, you might be wondering, what if I can't design a website? What if I'm worried people haven't heard of my brand? No problem. Shopify's got you covered from the start with beautiful, ready-to-go templates that match your brand style and help you find customers through easy-to-run email and social media campaigns. If you need a hand with everyday tasks, their AI tools created specifically for commerce can help enhance product images, write descriptions, and more. Plus, their award-winning customer support is available 24/7 to share advice if you ever get stuck. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Knowles, Knowles. That is shopify.com/Knowles, shopify.com/Knowles. Folks, three-fingered mummy-looking things. Alleged alien abductions. Giants! In this episode of Michael and the Rogue Archaeologist, Part 2, I continue my conversation with explorer and all-around Indiana Jones, Timothy Alberino. After our previous episode was left on a cliffhanger, we discuss his most recent expedition to Peru, testimonies of supposed alien abductees, and Nephilim-looking like remains of giants, allegedly. We get into all of it in this episode. Here's a quick teaser.
I had this intuition. There's something under that pyramid in Peru. These three-fingered tridactyl beings, the largest, most bizarre elongated skulls. Let me tell you the most compelling thing, though. 2 of the mummies are pregnant. Maybe there is a crypto-terrestrial, non-human race, species, inhabiting planet Earth, probably subterranean.
It sounds crazy.
It sounds absolutely crazy. Even according to the Smithsonian's own records, there were the remains of people of unusually large stature were discovered.
What does it mean for us? What does it mean for everything from our human nature to salvation history if that actually happened?
Well, those are the essential questions.
Watch the full episode now on the Michael Knowles YouTube channel. For the full, uncensored, ad-free version, subscribe to DailyWire Plus. Speaking of reprobates, Harvey Milk might have his name wiped off a U.S. Navy ship. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is reportedly looking to remove Harvey Milk's name from a ship. USNS Harvey Milk, which is, what is that? Like an oil ship? Yeah, it's an oiler ship. This according to military.com, looking at a memo from the Office of the Secretary of the Navy. So the Office of the Secretary of the Navy has the power to name Navy ships. And I come from a Navy family, actually. My grandpa was a Navy captain. A number of members of my family have served in the Navy. So I've been to plenty of naval bases over the years. I was at the christening, I forget if it was the christening or one of the events in the commissioning of the USS Michael Monsoor. Michael Monsoor, a real naval hero. And the ships are named after all these sorts of great naval heroes. And then there's Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk did serve in the Navy. He was discharged without an honorable discharge because he was a little bit of a derelict, a little bit of a reprobate. And he proved this in his later political career when he was involved in politics in San Francisco and was known for preying on young runaway boys, minors. He was a pederast, this guy. This guy in his 30s at least was preying on like a 16-year-old boy. I mean, this is a true degenerate, Harvey Milk. And then he was killed in actually just a matter of workplace violence. But he's become a martyr for the pseudo-religion of LGBT LMNOP. In any case, his name should leave the ship. This is a great move from Pete Hegseth. Great move from the Pentagon. I think as a matter of morality and justice, Harvey Milk should not have his name on the ship. But also, just as a practical matter for the U.S. Navy, having a ship named the USNS Harvey Milk was not helping the Navy beat the allegations, okay? People always, there are rumors about the Navy As I told you, I come from a Navy family. There are all the jokes that people make about the Navy. Well, having a ship named after Harvey Milk does not allow the good men and women of the United States Navy to beat the allegations. So anyway, this is a really good thing. Some people are going to say, who cares? Who cares what the name of a ship is? The libs care, don't they? Who cares? It's the same people who say, who cares what words we use? Who cares what language is enforced by the Cultural and Political Institute? Who cares? Oh, it's just words. It's just trivial. The libs seem to care a lot. They spend a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort trying to change words, trying to change the names of ships. Why? Because they know that words have a lot of power and they color the way we view the world. And they, in this case, they create a quasi-pantheon of people to venerate, secular saints. And so there are a lot of great people in American history that we can honor. A lot of great people the U.S. Navy has to pick from. A lot of Michael Monsoors out there. Not all exactly like, obviously these are individuals who've committed individual acts of heroism. But all in all, there are a lot of people of great virtue and heroism that we could pick from. We don't need to pick people who are known strictly for vice. Because to do that is to exalt vice. To do that is to change the public morality. To do that is to change the public religion. And we don't want to do it. Now, speaking of homosexuals, there's this weird study out from Pew Research. It's not that weird, but it has thus far left some people scratching their heads. This is on how many Americans consult astrology and tarot cards and fortune tellers and all that kind of stuff. The headline is 30% of Americans consult all of those things. Younger adults, especially younger women, are more likely to believe in astrology and to consult astrology and horoscopes. No surprises there. And, I'm quoting directly from the article, Americans who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender are especially likely to consult astrology or a horoscope and tarot cards. About half of LGBT Americans, 54%, consult astrology or a horoscope at least yearly. That's roughly twice the share among U.S. adults overall, which is 28%. And LGBT women are more likely than LGBT men to consult astrology at least yearly, 63%. 63% of lesbians consult astrology versus 40% of gay men. 40%, that's a high number. It's still much higher than the national average, and certainly than the national average of men. 33% of LGBT adults say they consult tarot cards, making them 3 times as likely as U.S. adults overall to say this. 21% of LGBT Americans say that when they make a major life decision, they rely at least a little on what they've learned from astrology or a horoscope. That's more than 1 in 5 LGBT LMNOP people. When they're making a major life decision, they go to the tarot cards or a fortune teller. While there is limited academic research on this topic, media publications focused on LGBTQ issues have described the prevalence of New Age practices in the LGBTQ plus community. No surprises here, at least to me. The reason is the LGBT LMNOP people eschew traditional religion. Because traditional religion, I'm not even just talking about Christianity, but Islam, Judaism, really anything that could even be remotely described as a traditional religion in the United States, says no on the LGBT stuff. Says that is contrary to the moral order. So people who embrace this identity, not just people who have a same-sex attraction, not just people who have done some weird stuff or whatever, but I'm saying people who put on the armor and identity of LGBTism, they are not participating in traditional religion. And when you eschew traditional religion, you become superstitious. This is a big lesson that people have not understood for the past 25 years, but they should figure it out now because people have understood it for most of history. For the last 25 years, since the New Atheists at least, we've been told that that religious people are superstitious, and in order to stop being superstitious, you need to give up religion, and then you can be reasonable. That's not actually what happens. Religious people, especially people who participate in true religion, they're actually the least superstitious people. They're the least superstitious people because their belief is grounded on both natural reason and revelation that go in accord with each other. Fides et ratio, faith and reason. When you give that up, when you deny facts that are knowable by natural reason, namely that there is a God, he exists, then you actually undermine your own reason. It's that, like that old cliche, the guy who doesn't stand for something will fall for anything. Similar kind of principle here. When you give up true religion, you are divorcing yourself, at least to some degree, from reality. And yet, the eternal questions continue to bubble up. So, instead of praying, you consult the tarot cards. Instead of trying to discern the signs of the times, you try to discern the meanings of astrology or tea leaves. You have to consult this fake religion. If you give up true religion, it's not that you're going to have no religion. It's that you're going to fall into some kind of false religion. That is what LGBT people in particular have done, because they so manifestly are separating themselves from the traditional moral order. It actually really doesn't have all that much to do with sex per se. It's just it's a kind of rule of thumb to show, okay, well, if I'm going to be a transgender identifying person, if I'm going to be an LGBT identifying person, then I'm not going to be Catholic, because the Catholic Church says I can't identify that way. That I have to go along with the moral teachings of the Catholic Church. Okay, well then I'm going to fall into some other New Age religion. No, you don't need to take my word for it. You don't even need to take Pew's word for it. The LGBT publications per Pew are admitting there's a lot of New Age stuff there. Don't fall into that. There's a priest or a layperson, I don't remember which, that said that today, used to be 20 years ago, you'd have to convince people not to be atheists. The evangelists would go out and say, don't be atheist, be Christian. Today, you don't need to convince people not to be atheists. You need to convince them not to get involved in the occult, in New Age, in all the weird pseudo-religions. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't consult astrologers, folks. It says it in the Bible, and you heard it here as well. Father's Day is coming. Skip the socks, skip the grill tools, get something for Dad that he will actually use. That is DailyWire Plus. Now 40% off. You will get ad-free shows from the most trusted voices in conservative media, plus full access to our premium entertainment library, including Dr. Jordan B. Peterson's new series, Parenting. It's the content that he wants with the values he raised you on. No shipping, no fluff. Just click, gift, instantly become his very favorite child. Go to DailyWirePlus.com, use code DAD40, save 40% now. My favorite comment yesterday is from Ivan UD1GR, who says, this is a fitting topic. Why do lesbians get to have an opinion on abortion if men can't? It's a good point. I guess they would say, because in principle, a lesbian can get pregnant. But a lesbian, as a general matter, will not get pregnant. So why, if the rule is, well, if you can't get pregnant, then you don't have an opinion on it. Well, if a lesbian, in as much as she is a lesbian, can't get pregnant, well, why does she get to have an opinion? I want to have an opinion about abortion. Speaking of religion, there is a modern Protestant worship music composer named Brandon Lake. Now, you know me, I'm a mackerel snapping papist, so I got a lot of Protestant friends, obviously, but I'm not totally familiar with what is called modern worship music. In fact, even the Catholic Church has a lot of this kind of modern worship music where it's like, hey girl, everybody, I just want to pray. And it's all really sappy and like, it ain't my thing. Let's put it that way. Well, anyway, one of the most prominent composers of this kind of music has now come out with the audacious claim that they need to make the modern worship music even less about God.
I think last thing I'll say is like, I'd love to see more worship sets, more churches, like kind of keep Bubba in mind.
Yeah.
Like we call him Bubba, the guy who's like in the back of the room and he's like, he got dragged there by his wife.
Yeah. Yep.
And I just don't know if like when your opening song or the most of your songs have so much Christianese
Yeah.
language.
Yeah.
I think he has a hard time going like, can I sing that? Like, I'm not there yet.
Right.
I think he hears a hard fought, and I'm not saying hard fought is the answer, but like I love like when your first song is like holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty.
Yeah.
I think he's going like,
What does that even
what does
mean?
holy mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Holy crap! Like what? Like
Yeah.
I don't, like
Yep.
I don't know. Obviously, that's where we want to get to in a worship set. Is where it's just every eye is fixated on him, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like everyone. It's like vertical.
Yeah.
But like, give Bubba some language. He can be like, all right, I find myself in that song. I feel like that, and hopefully that's what some of my music can continue to do.
Okay, so I think this guy's totally wrong. Though he seems sincere and he's trying to do something good, but he's totally wrong. I prefer, as a traditional Catholic, I don't even like the modern Catholic hymns. I like there's some good 19th century hymnody. There's some of the stuff, actually, the Anglicans have some good hymnody, but, like, I think of like good old sturdy English hymns. Come thou long expected Jesus, born to set thy people free. But what I prefer is Gregorian chant. Kyrie eleison, gloria in excelsis Deo. Love that. Credo in unum Deum. I really like all that. Now, why? Is it just because I'm an old fogey and I like old stuff? No. It's a little bit that, but that's not why. The reason I like those old chants in Latin and even the sturdy English hymnody is because it's not emotivist. It puts God front and center, but it's strong. It's the kind of hymn and it's the kind of chanting that a man can sing. You could be a man and sing that. It's strong. It's tough. It's to the point. It's not trying to play on your emotions like you're a 13-year-old girl. And a lot of the modern worship music, Catholics play it too, is this sappy stuff. People sometimes refer to it as, like Christ is my girlfriend or something kind of music. And but even I think of one very popular in the liberal Catholic parishes. I will raise you up on eagle's wings. Da, 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 da. First of all, I'm not going to raise anybody up on eagle's wings ever because I'm just a guy. God can raise you up. I'm not doing that because I'm just a guy. But it's all this, well, we're gonna kind of put God a little, we're gonna remove God a little bit. We're gonna make it more about you and your feelings and he talks about Bubba in the back of the church. He says, well, we just got to play something for Bubba. You're not gonna win Bubba over by playing some sappy, girly nonsense ballad from the 70s. It's not gonna work. Bubba doesn't like that. You are much more likely to appeal to Bubba with a 9th century Gregorian chant than you are. At least it's manly. At least you're not asking him to turn himself into some kind of wimp or sissy. This is the issue. But what this guy's saying here is the logical conclusion of all modern worship music. The whole point of which is to make things less sacred. Hey, what if we took sacred music and made it more like the world and made it more just common and popular and vulgar? That's what it is. That's why these songs musically are indistinguishable from pop music ballads. And I don't want to beat up too much on the modern worship music because this is actually the whole point of modern society since the Enlightenment is to make everything less sacred. There was a chasm between the sacred and the profane and the vulgar down here, and the common. And in the Enlightenment, we said, oh, forget about the sacred. We're going to make everything terrestrial. We're going to have the low solid ground of liberalism, and we're just going to make it all like the world. Well, guess what? No one's going to go to church if they're just going to get more of the world. You get enough of the world in the world. You don't need that. Okay? And I think what people are crying out for now, including Bubba, what Bubba is crying out for right now is a little re-enchantment, is a little bit more seriousness, is a little bit more of the sacred, the thing that's been missing. That's the thing we're yearning for. And you ain't going to get it by further weakening the music or further weakening the culture. You got to make it sturdy and you got to make it sacred. Got to make it real, man. Okay, I have so much more to say. On this point, there is a very liberal Catholic priest. He's a Jesuit. You know how they are. Father James Martin. You might have heard of him. He's active on social media. Guy's good at getting attention. Father James Martin has urged Catholics to acknowledge Pride Month. Luckily, we don't have time to get to it today. Maybe we'll get to it tomorrow. Today is Woke Wednesday, and because of the death of the man who invented the abortion pill, the producers are focusing on abortion arguments, abortion nonsense. So the rest of the show continues now. You don't want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, Canada WLAS at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.